or download the app. Happy listening.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
We're going to be going on the air.
Ain't no stop for me.
Good evening, everybody. It's Carolyn Haywood and Diane Fire for the Red Whine on KLRN Radio. We have such a great show for you tonight. We all have to operate in a political system. However, the mission of ICE, Enforcement Removal Operations of Boston, does not operate on the tide of opinion. Their mission remains the same: to remove the worst of people unlawfully present in the United States who present a threat to public safety. We're so grateful tonight to have the Boston ERO Field Director, Todd Lyons, with us to explain the end of 287G, ICE detainers, and share the arrests of the most egregious offenders who deal in death and destruction. Todd, thank you for being with us tonight. We were really grateful to have you.
No, I'm really thankful that you guys allowed me to come on and kind of really explain what the mission of ERO, the mission of ICE is up here in Boston and the rest of New England.
Well, we understand your mission is to remove the most egregious offenders. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's one of the misnomers of ICE. Is a lot of folks think that we're out there rounding up everyone that's just here illegally, trying to have a better life. In fact, when you look at statistically and just more recently in the media, I would even go to say 99% of our actual arrests here in Massachusetts are all a felony or above, or a really significant, serious misdemeanor, like someone arrested 2 to 3 times for operating while under the influence, or assault and battery on a family member. So what ICE ERO is really focused on here in Massachusetts is that worst of the worst out of the community. Those people that you don't want in our neighborhoods, right? That aren't here for a better life, that are exploiting our immigration system, and are really causing problems for other law enforcement agencies. So we have the ability to remove that public safety threat or that repeat offender from the equation before they can go ahead and harm or re-victimize someone or pretty much strike again.
We've seen some crazy arrests. You guys are busy, and please tell your whole entire team that we pray for their safety. And you've arrested MS-13 members, murderers, rapists, pedophiles. I mean, really the worst of the worst here in New England. And maybe you want to share some of those arrests with some of our listeners.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, Boston specifically in Massachusetts, out of all the ICE field officers, we've seen the most foreign fugitives that have come to the state to hide pretty much in plain sight, right? So we've arrested individuals that were in the top 10 most wanted for Brazil. We arrested a former Brazilian police officer that was wanted for mass murder, killing 13 people in a village, who came here to Massachusetts. We arrested a murderer on Martha's Vineyard that was here illegally. Another child sex rapist that was living on Martha's Vineyard. Just tonight, before I came on with you all, Fox News National had on our arrest that we just made in Gloucester of another sex offender. So these are definitely folks that you don't want living next door to you. You don't want in your neighborhood. So when I get a lot of pushback about what our mission is, or when it gets kind of politicized, we always have to wonder. People can't argue with us on these type of arrests, right? When they say us removing someone back to their home country that's wanted for, like I said, mass murder, or wanted for child exploitation, rape of a child, rape of a minor. To me, I don't think anyone in Massachusetts or the rest of the Commonwealth would be upset that we're taking that individual into custody and removing that public safety threat from the community.
Yeah, we just want to know how are they released? I mean, the job of the government, in my eyes, their first job is to protect the citizens of the United States, and these judges and some local law enforcement and sheriffs are refusing to honor detainers. So is this because we're a sanctuary state? Is that why we're drawing so many murderers and rapists and pedophiles and officials that refuse to protect the citizens by not honoring your detainers? And could you explain maybe what the process is for someone to get on an ICE list and what a detainer is?
No, sure. So, when someone's arrested, whether it's here in Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, anywhere in the United States, when they're arrested and they're fingerprinted, those fingerprints, when they're live scanned, meaning that it's electronically based, web-based, it's being uploaded to the FBI database, which shares that with DHS, which subsequently comes to ICE. So when individuals are encountered either at the border, when they're apprehended or arrested by Border Patrol or U.S. and Customs and Border Protection, CBP, or when they come through, say they come lawfully on a visa, a B1, B2 visitor visa that they only can stay for 6 months, or someone's here on a student visa, they've been fingerprinted and those fingerprints are on file. So when we see that a local agency has arrested someone, and then we especially see what those crimes are, we go ahead and place what's called an ICE detainer, which is pretty much, it's a request. It's twofold. It's a request for information, and it's also a request to let ICE know when that individual is being released and have the opportunity for us to go ahead and take custody of that individual. Here in Massachusetts, there are majority of jurisdictions that don't honor those detainers or don't call us. Some agencies or some jurisdictions that do say they do call us or work with us, we'll get the call and they'll say, hey, by the way, so-and-so is in our custody. You have 15 minutes to get here before he's walked out the door. He just posted bail. At that point, we can't get there in time. So then it's a
detainer for 48 hours.
So we do ask for 48 hours. We used to ask for 72, not including the weekend. And a lot of these jurisdictions just don't work with it. And that's what's the frustrating thing, is because I officers, these individuals are in a secure location. They don't have any weapons on them. They've been searched. We can take custody of them in a safe way. But instead, they're re-released back to the community, to hide in plain sight. A lot of these individuals, when the local jurisdiction arrests them, or let's say Mass State Police stop them and they give them an ID or give them a name, by the time they get them back to the barracks or get them to the police station for processing, it's not the individual who they thought they were. So
well, that's no secret to us, right? And law enforcement, because we've had people, as a former law enforcement officer myself, we've had people say, listen, don't say my name. But a number of times, I've reported to my superiors, listen, we should call ICE, and they've been refused. So it's super frustrating when the local, the law enforcement and the state police are trying to do the right thing, and it seems like their own agencies are working against us, and we have a hard time understanding that.
Yeah, and to give credit to a lot of people behind the scenes too, there are a lot of officers, supervisors, chiefs, commanders that do work with us. Most recently, we did have great collaboration and a great arrest with Massachusetts State Police. So I think that a lot of agencies, a lot of jurisdictions are starting to really realize the benefit of having ICE, especially ERO, as a public safety partner, especially when they can see that we can remove that, criminal public safety threat right there and then from their jurisdiction, especially with some of these repeat offenders when it comes to heroin distribution, fentanyl. We have folks released countless numbers of times with no notification to ICE. They've been previously deported 2 or 3 times, done federal time for reentry after deportation, which actually is a federal felony. So a lot of times, just kind of for your listeners, a lot of the immigration we actually work with when it's coming to deal with law enforcement agencies, for us, it's what's considered administrative. So civil, you always hear about the civil immigration civil enforcement of immigration. So there are a lot of criminal statutes that are attached to it, but we do have one, which is USC 1326, which is the deportation of a reentry foreign felon. So that's a felony right there. So you would think at least, that's a felon in their presence. You'd want to turn that over to the agency. So it can be really frustrating, especially when my folks have to go back out into the community where they don't know if that individual is going to have a gun or if there are other dangerous people in that house, right? Or we had the opportunity to take them into custody and now they've reoffended. They've raped someone else. They've committed another murder, had another DUI with a crash with injuries. So I think a lot of people in Massachusetts are starting to see that, especially with a lot of work we've done in the media and opportunities to talk to you tonight and just have the chance to tell the real story of what we do.
And that's why we
I did have a question. I mean, I know the mood right now, I think in the country as a whole right now, especially with what just happened with the murder down in Georgia of a nursing student, and finding out that the person that committed this, of course, was not only here illegally. His brother gets arrested for having a fake green card, but that he had been released with no bail or personal recognizance in New York in October. And I'm wondering, do you see a lot of these, I guess I'll call them frequent flyer repeat offenders that take off from other states and kind of like try to blend in like, Massachusetts? Or how hard is it when the local police obviously just let them go and, with their 15-minute warning, for them to disappear and then just to turn up in another state, unfortunately, after like a heinous crime that was committed?
We do see a lot of those. We've seen an uptick in individuals that have been encountered or arrested in other states. And it was kind of what we were talking about before the intro of the show. Right now, there's a backlog in immigration court for new non-citizens, asylum seekers to have their opportunity to go in front of an immigration judge. So when they do have their notice to appear in their court date, they are really banking on and hoping having that process paperwork. So now they go ahead and apply for state benefits. They want to apply for a work permit, things like that. For an example, the city of New York, their backlog is out to 2036. Massachusetts, we're not that bad. We're lucky. We're still in this decade. But we see a lot of folks that will come up here. We've had people come from Miami, New Jersey, New York, in order for my office to process them to try to get an earlier court date so they can kind of move their case quicker and move it down the road so they can get public assistance benefits, things like that.
What about licenses? What's your feeling on, people say, we should give them licenses so they can work, but are you finding people with multiple licenses? And, do you have a thought or an opinion, if you're allowed to express one, about the frustration of some states giving illegals a license? We don't really know who they are.
So yeah, and it's not that I'm barred from talking about licenses. I would love to talk to you about the Massachusetts R&V and the driver's license issues. However, they took away our access to it. When the new law came out, we were subsequently notified that if you're a federal agency, you no longer have access to R&V records. So I can't check someone's driver's license. If someone's issued a Massachusetts driver's license and they're using that as a new identity, we can't have access to run that name or date of birth through our systems. We won't. If we go to a house and there's two vehicles in the driveway, Massachusetts plates, we can't run those plates, and we won't give us information on if that person has a concealed weapons permit, if that's another wanted felon in the house.
Wow.
So one of the downsides to the new driver's license law in Massachusetts is they took away our access. And the worst part is they made it so if any law enforcement agency shares R&V data with ICE, they'll take away and fine those agencies. Yeah,
Well, I know from my own personal experience that the RMV has facial recognition. So if there is someone who gets a license with the same biographical information, but a different face, say one in Haverhill and one Hyannis, overnight it's like boop, 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 boop. And, a notification goes out to Hyannis and Haverhill that says, hey, this is not the right, the biographical information is the same, but the faces are different. And what we do about it in Massachusetts is absolutely nothing. And that's why I was so against illegal aliens getting a driver's license. And these are things that law enforcement knows, but the regular public doesn't know. So it seems like your efforts are being countered, by laws.
Yeah, and not to use too much law enforcement jargon, but so it's our identifying number, right? Our ORI.
Mm-hmm.
For ICE. So it's not just the Boston field office. Let's say they're the ERO Los Angeles is out in operation and they identify two individuals in a car and they have a Massachusetts driver's license and they go to run it. If the state automatically blocks anything that comes from ICE, whether in all 50 states, anything that
That's
comes
insane.
From yeah, it's pretty mind blowing. I was. Yeah,
Can you go across the border into New Hampshire and have one of the New Hampshire offices pull it? I'm not kidding you. I mean, I would imagine that the New Hampshire offices would probably do it. That's crazy.
I can say we've had a lot of great law enforcement partner support. But that's one of those things that's really frustrating. That I kind of thought it was all one team, one fight, and to have such a tool taken away from us, and the state gave us the opportunity to kind of make an appeal and present our case to why we had all these cases that we identified. The ones on Martha's Vineyard we identified through Massachusetts driver's license. Those were wanted murderers. Our mass murderer from Brazil, he had a new Massachusetts driver's license. So we were able to track a lot of these folks down prior to the new law going into effect, and we were trying to use that as I guess, our proof that it works, and we're not out there just combing through RMV data to try to find illegal folks. But in the end, they took away our access, and so now we're stuck trying to find different means to locate these public safety threats and these foreign fugitives.
And I would think that a lot of people that may have voted, in my mind, in error to allow them to have licenses probably didn't educate themselves on this aspect. And now, of course, when they're finding you're doing these arrests, they're like, great, that is great. I'm so glad they arrested that man. But realizing that he probably could have been detained and removed prior to any, horrible event happening. And that was prevented by the state of Massachusetts when this law was passed and they added that piece into the law. And I think when people realize that, they're going to be very angry about it.
It was an add-on from the Attorney General's office after the law had passed. Yep. It was one of those really, I'm not a legal eagle, so there was something added in there that things could be added later after the bill passed, and this was one of them. So,
and that's insane that something can be added after a bill is passed. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, and then a lot of the other frustration we have for our folks too. We totally understand that immigration enforcement, we're one of the few law enforcement agencies that does ebb and flow with each new administration. Even though we've had immigration laws officially on the books since 1956 and 1963 that are still current, that are still benefits to public safety, depending on which administration is in or which party, everything's done by executive order. So for morale, it's hard to get our officers excited because every 4 to 8 years, it may be some way different that we do law enforcement.
Is that something that congressional leaders should be, obviously working on to make a law so that it's not executive order? Or
for us in the field, we would just hope that we would be given the opportunity to exercise the current laws now. And if they change them, give us the tools that we can go ahead and make a difference. Because that's what we did as law enforcement officers, signed up to protect the law, protect people, enforce law. So it's really frustrating when we do get, and I hate to use the word hampered, but we're really limited on some things that we can do. When we first started talking earlier, when we were talking about the detainer situation, and a lot of my colleagues all over the country, especially in the Northeast right now, New York and Atlanta, two of the big ones, my two partner field office directors, they're really having to deal a lot with detainers not honored. But we had agencies in Massachusetts that actually go to the media and brag on and put out press releases on how many detainers they don't honor. So that's even the worst part. I think if you're a citizen of the state or you're a citizen of that city, when the people that are sworn to protect you actually put out a press release saying that, hey, we didn't take these criminals into custody, right?
And that would be people who ended the 287G. I don't know if many people understand what that is. If you could.
Sure. Yeah, the 287G, believe it or not, with everything that was said about it, it was a great program. Basically, under 287G, it's part of the immigration law, where ICE is allowed to deputize certain jurisdictional officers, mostly from sheriff's offices or county jails, which it's a force multiplier for us. So they, in turn, act as ICE agents. What they're doing is they're screening those individuals that they're going through. They're going to see what that person, they've been trained to figure out what the people's immigration status is, understand their cases, go ahead and identify those for ICE, and either place detainers on them or place them into immigration proceedings based on their crimes. Barnstable County was an amazing partner for us. And one part of the program is we do have to have town halls. We have to have people the opportunity to come in and speak. Since I've been the director, I've been down to the Cape previously with former sheriff, kind of explaining what the situation is. And kind of to the point I said about our media stories, when I think when citizens hear these cases that are coming out of 287G, and it's not a lot. You may have anywhere from, depending on the jurisdiction, 15 to 25 cases a year, but they're murderer, rapist, fentanyl dealer. So it's not like someone's being arrested for operating without a driver's license or being found in an open container or shoplifting. No, these are really bad folks that you want to see released and you want to see get put into the immigration system.
Jimmy Cummings was my first boss when I was on the state police, and he was the former Barnstable County sheriff. The new sheriff complained that there was too much cost to the public, and I think the cost of releasing criminals into our community is far worse than what she purports the cost would be.
Yeah, with Barnstable County now, unfortunately, we don't have that relationship anymore. Those deputies are barred from even answering our emails, talk to us on the phone. Some of your listeners and yourself might remember there was a case this summer. A lady got in her car, and there was someone in the back seat who was laying back in there hiding. He was in the country illegally. We asked to interview him so we could take him into custody, and we weren't allowed access to him.
That's criminal.
So that's like I said, that's one of the frustrating things, especially coming from an agency we had such a great partnership to where now you don't have any, and especially when you tell another jurisdiction like, hey, it's kind of like the teacher with the foot stomp, and this might be on the test, right? Like, hey, you might want to really take a look at this guy. He's not who it is, or he's a pretty bad dude, and we still get no response and no help. So I think that should be a concern for citizens. Take everything out of the side of the politicization of immigration enforcement and law enforcement working with immigration. You hear a lot about the chilling aspect, the chilling effect. It's really about public safety.
What do some of your colleagues say about, fentanyl dealers? I personally had, a cousin overdose on heroin, and like I said, I worked undercover narcotics, and, we're not helping these people by not securing our border. And what are you seeing with, your colleagues seeing with human trafficking and fentanyl deaths and cartels?
Yeah, no, that's one of the biggest things. Like you, I lost my cousin to a fentanyl overdose, and unfortunately, it was while I was in the job here now, and it was later tracked back that those drugs came from a previously deported felon out of my office that returned to the United States.
Wow.
So I've seen it firsthand what it can do to families. They're frustrated too because a lot of these same patrolmen, a lot of these same detectives arrest the same folks over and over, and especially in some jurisdictions, some cities. When my officers arrest these people, they've actually put handcuffs on these individuals 2 or 3 times, and they've deported them back to their home nation. These people have been presented to the U.S. Attorney's Office. They've got some time in bedtime for entering after deportation, yet they still come back here. And that's the frustrating thing, I think, for a lot of my colleagues and a lot of my law enforcement partners outside of ICE is the fact that we put a lot of emphasis on fentanyl control and heroin trafficking, yet the one key piece about it is the repeat offender that is a foreign national that officers aren't being allowed to work with another federal agency to remove that criminal element from their jurisdiction.
Yeah, I remember we even had a judge in I think it was in our former hometown of Newton, Shelley Josephs, that
Sneaking them out the back door.
Right. So, I wonder sometimes, why our own government is working against us like this. And it's got to be frustrating. I know it's frustrating for a lot of my friends that are still in law enforcement. And if you could just take back to your team that, this seems to be a way to kind of beat us down, to acquiesce to allowing this kind of behavior. And we're so grateful to them. Have you, hopefully you haven't lost any officers due to the malfeasance of other agencies not honoring, a detainer?
No, we haven't. Knock on wood. We've had some of my officers have been injured. We had 3 of our special response team individuals. They got hurt on a case where it was another detainer released. And the one thing for when it comes to, like I said earlier, morale and employee retention, I have limited resources in Massachusetts. We're one of the smaller field offices when it comes to ICE and ERO overall. We don't have the manpower or the bandwidth that a lot of the larger cities do, like New York City, LA, and of course all of border offices. So for my folks, it's very hard for them to have to look at the daily printouts that come in about individuals that were arrested and say, okay, we don't have enough people to go get the fentanyl dealer and the child sex offender. We have to pick one of the two. And then hopefully we can go back out at a later date and track down the one we can't get today. And that's
our task forces, our drug task force, our DEA, our state police violent fugitive task force. And is there any way to pass on that information to them, or are they also banned?
So the federal task forces, U.S. Marshals, the great DEA, ATF, they're all amazing partners. Mass fugitive guys, they are great. Again, a lot of them can't do the immigration work like we do. The other issue is too, though, we have so many individuals that are reporting to our office daily from the Southwest border that I've had to put so many of my resources to working our front doors with that massive lines that we get, that I had to take away street teams in order to deal with processing all these folks that have been released from the Southwest border that are now coming to Massachusetts that we have to get into the immigration system. So
that's demoralizing for the morale. I totally understand that just from law enforcement. When we couldn't get more than a desk and 2 officers to operate from Provincetown, to the Sagamore Bridge, that's 80 square miles. It seems like less people want to join law enforcement, and I hope the tides change in the future so that we are more supported. I remember in the days of when Andrew Lelling was the U.S. attorney. I think those are a little bit of a better time. So we hope that does change. And what we're trying to do is to educate the public to let them know, not to, listen to this BS of these elected officials that are telling us that, these people are, we need workforce housing, and, are illegal people allowed to even work? And that's how they sold it to us. They needed licenses so that they could work. And now we need to build all this infrastructure and give them $10,000 on an EBT card when I don't believe it's even legal for them to work, correct?
So they can't work until they get their actual work permits. So they get authorization from Citizenship and Immigration Services, which is our civilian counterpart. And a lot of that is by going through the immigration system. You need to having your asylum case be positively found, or you've now are gone in front of a judge and your case may take some time. You'll have the opportunity to get your work permit, but it still takes a while. That's why we had so many folks from Miami, from Georgia, New York coming to Massachusetts to try to get that earlier court date. So that's very frustrating, and it was frustrating for us too to see that we had, when they opened up Joint Base Cape Cod, and we had an individual there wanted for homicide out of Honduras in the temporary shelters right next to Coast Guard base housing.
Yeah, the Coast
that's
Guard,
crazy.
Weren't happy with it either, and we understand that some of that Coast Guard housing has been taken over as well. And I find it egregious, and so does Diane, that we're spending $45 million a month here in Massachusetts, and we can't put some of that money to Boston ERO or to our border officials. This isn't sustainable.
No, it really isn't. It's not sustainable for my office as well right now, the way it is. I also have the northern border. So I pretty much go from the end of Maine all the way to Lake Champlain in Vermont, and I share the Swanton sector for the Border Patrol with ERO Buffalo and that's the busiest sector on the northern border right now. And when you think about the numbers that we encounter up there compared to what my colleagues on the southwest border are dealing with, it's night and day. However, when you don't have the infrastructure to deal with these individuals, and you have a larger, more porous area that's already been depleted of resources because other agencies such as Customs and Border or Border Patrol have had to deploy their folks to the southwest border, it really makes it hard. So when we have 150 to 170 individuals come through on the Buffalo side from Bangladesh, that's a pretty big weekend for that office, right? So it's tough, and it puts a strain too on our northern states in New England. We're constantly meeting with folks in Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, because they're starting to see that influx. It's become cheaper with the cartels, and pretty much individuals who want to come into the country legally to fly to Toronto or Montreal and just make their way down through Vermont or New Hampshire.
I know that the governor in New Hampshire, Sununu, is very concerned about the northern border. And I wanted to ask, I know obviously Massachusetts is no cooperation, but for the other New England states that you go through, is there one state that has the best type of cooperation where they work very well with ICE, law enforcement and, ICE together, finding the unlawful, I'm not even going to call them residents, but anyways, the unlawful ones, is there one or a couple of particular states that work, with ICE hand in hand, or?
Sure. I mean, yeah, we do have states that are great partners. New Hampshire's obviously one. They would like to do more with us. It's just unfortunate that we just don't have the resources, the infrastructure to really do that with them now. They're a great partner. State of Maine is a great partner. Vermont, they've been very helpful. Even though state of Connecticut has the SAFE Act, which kind of bars a lot of jurisdictions from working with ICE. On the worst of the worst, they will deal with us. Rhode Island sheriffs agree, they'll work with us. It seems to be more pockets in areas where there's a lot more pushback, if that's the right word to use, or lack of cooperation, right? And then that kind of bleeds over though, because then you have a lot of other jurisdictions that, and I totally get the law enforcement leaders' position when they call and say, "Hey, we would love to help you. We'll work with you behind closed doors. We'll help you. Yeah. Just please leave us out of your press release if you do anything." Right? It's just sad that we have to work like that, because I would love to
have such weak police leaders that won't stand up, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would love to highlight some of the police leaders we have. I mean, they're absolutely great. We do have some really, really strong partners who do care. I just think, unfortunately, we're just such a divide and such a pivotal point when it comes to immigration enforcement and how that's really going to play out, or how it's painted. And then, yeah, I guess I'm just happy that a lot of folks have now seen a lot of our press releases. To have your story like retweeted by folks around the country, it's kind of it. You don't want to say it's waking people up, but it is. It's kind of waking people up to see that there's no really negative downside to working with ICE, right?
No,
I think what was interesting is the various states, that they do polls in, and it seems like it's been consistent that illegal immigration is extremely important to residents of most of, I think, the states in the country. And I think with, you're right. They did. The narrative was tainted by ICE by saying you're rounding up families, just trying to make a living and whatnot. And, when a narrative gets like that, it obviously gets in people's minds, and they don't realize that by lumping everybody as a whole, which is what they did when it came to Massachusetts, by putting that, addendum on the bill, which I still think is illegal, but that blocked you completely. And I don't think a lot of those voters that voted to, go ahead and give the illegal aliens driver's licenses knew that that was in there, because I honestly think if they had, there's no way that that would have passed. No way.
Yeah, and that's really why I'm so happy that you kind of reached out and gave us the opportunity to come on and speak, because there are a lot of folks that only hear one side of it. And I can give you a prime example. We had a case, and it was out of South Boston District Court, and it got painted in the media that there was this poor individual that was trying to get his life back on track. He couldn't get to work. His driver's license, it said in the media report that all he was there for was there was something wrong with his license. He was trying to straighten out the issue. But as he left court, black ICE vans showed up and agents in black raid gear arrested him, threw him in, taken away from his family. All he's trying to do is work. Well, the issue that they left out of his driver's license was it wasn't his name. He was also a previously deported fentanyl dealer that had an active felony warrant under the name he had taken over, right? So we tried to get that narrative changed, but of course they never wanted to. We reached out to certain outlets and they say, okay, well, thanks for the info. And you never see like a retraction or a reprint, right? So all everybody knows is we're driving around arresting people with bad driver's license without hearing that whole story. And the one that I kind of highlighted earlier, to wake up in the morning and see on the front page of the Herald, Boston police ignored 12 detainers. I went to our public affairs people. And I'm like, no, it was actually a lot more than 12. And I want to go out there and highlight that you actually ignored more, right? So that to have, like I said, to have agencies kind of be happy with putting out how many times they don't work with us, I think it's just a bad narrative overall for the state of law enforcement. Pretty much.
That's and especially with what's been going on with the your arrest that you've made and what happened down in Georgia. I think that type of bragging, people will now start taking notice of it, and they will say, "Wait a minute, how do we know that those 12, the 12 detainers wasn't someone that went out and robbed somebody or killed somebody and they can just disappear?" And I think people are frustrated by that.
There was another one of my colleagues dealing with right now at the Washington, D.C. field office. They had an individual previously deported, detainer not honored. He shot at 3 police officers the other night after he got out. And then in Maryland, there was a previously deported Honduran individual that was released on another charge and then subsequently went out and killed a 2-year-old.
Oh my God.
So,
oh my God.
I think as more and more of these stories are going to start coming up and more people start paying attention to working with ICE, it might actually be a good thing. I hope the climate changes. My colleague down in the Baltimore office just had a pretty good achievement that Montgomery County actually invited them for a conversation and said, hey, all right, let's talk about this. How can we at least do detainers on these egregious cases? And that's the other thing too. Like we in Massachusetts, even though I don't have the manpower to do it, we will put a detainer on every non-citizen that's arrested. Obviously, we'll focus on the most egregious cases, but if we have enough of the manpower, we'll go all the way down to the low ones. Because a lot of the low ones too, what a lot of agencies don't realize is we're reaching out to them because this individual may have been in North Dakota and this is his 8th OUI, or he came from New York where he was just involved in a assault and battery, even though he might have just got arrested for shoplifting, let's say in Quincy, he might be, wanted somewhere else. So for agencies like Montgomery County down in Maryland to kind of come to the table and actually open up that line of dialogue to say, okay, hey, let's talk about this, I think it's a step in a huge direction.
Can you publish the detainers just like you publish the arrests? I think that would be, such an eye-opener to people. If you publish the detainer with the egregious crime that's attached to it, and then the people of the county or the state would be able to hold those officials who ignore it accountable. Is that legal to do?
No, so we're bound by a lot of freedom of information, a lot of PII, public identity, that fancy word. But there's a lot of things that kind of tie our hands that we can't do from DHS. So I would love to do that kind of data. We do data releases, and usually around the fiscal year, but by the time that comes out, we've already surpassed those numbers. It just keeps going up every year.
It's just too many to say, a detainer for a 34-year-old white male for a child rape was issued in the town or for the town of Falmouth or for the state of Massachusetts, or just for some way for the public to understand that you're doing your job, but other people aren't allowing you to go, to follow through with that.
Oh yeah, and that's kind of the point where I was going with how we put detainers on everything is, if that individual goes out and reoffends or rapes another child or kills someone in an OUI, I never want anyone coming back and saying, ICE didn't let us know. We're going to do our best to let you know. We're trying to take care of that situation. Because we've seen that before in the past, that I just want to make sure we're doing our part. Even if they don't honor those detainers, we're going to go ahead and send it to them anyways.
Well, that's what happened.
I mean, do you have like a wall of shame for like certain departments out there that, just completely, I mean, obviously Boston was bragging about it, but is there like, I probably shouldn't say a wall of shame, because obviously they're doing what they're ordered to do. But, obviously the departments where I should say the most frustrating department. How about that?
Yeah, we do. We definitely have great partners we like to work with. Right. We'll be out there every time we call them to help, or we let them know we're going to go make an arrest. They'll out there support us. And then we definitely have those jurisdictions where emails and phone calls just aren't returned. So yeah, it's pretty much all around the state. It runs a complete gamut of the great support that we have to absolutely none. To almost,
and of course, those departments will be the ones that'll be like, "You never told us," and then you'll pull it out and say, "Oh yes, we did 6 times."
So what's really hard for us in Massachusetts is sometimes we might place that detainer with the agency, and that the agency will put that detainer in the prisoner's file, and it will go to the sheriff, and the sheriffs will keep that detainer there, and it gets to the courthouse, and the courthouse just say, "No, he's got to be released." Right. So that detainer kind of travels with the prisoner, detainee, the non-citizen the whole way through, and it might be a jurisdiction that is great to work with, loves us, and then that detainer might get to a house of corrections and he could get released, or it might get to a district court and it will get released. And
unreal.
That's the other hard part for us too, especially with a lot of the courts, is if there's not an ICE officer to take custody of that individual, they'll just release them.
Are they allowed to arrest in court, Todd?
So that was my other part. I was showing, so we can no longer make arrests in courthouses or outside or near any courthouse or probation office. It's considered a sensitive location. There are different examples in ways that we can, especially if that individual is going to be detained and turned over to the sheriff's department. We arrest them in their lockup. But no, we just can't go in and arrest someone in a courthouse or arrest them in the lobby or as they're leaving. That's one of the new sensitive locations where we're not allowed to go.
Unbelievable. If you had an opportunity to kind of fix this, it would have to be executive order.
Well, I think for us right now, no. As far as us for enforcing immigration laws on the worst of the worst, no. What we would need is an honest, just down to earth, in the trenches talk with law enforcement leaders and state officials to explain exactly what we're doing. And if we could start at the worst of the worst, I would be 100% happy. It'd be a huge leap for us. that would fix so many problems. Just to have that type of cooperation and to us kind of not be labeled as the boogeyman no more, right? I think a long way.
Well, we hope that you'll come back. We have about 30 seconds left, but our Diane and I like to educate the public and be as factual as we can. And you've given us so much that people need to digest. I really think, when we post this and people have a chance to listen, if they're not already listening live, I think they're going to be flabbergasted,
Outraged.
Outraged.
No, and
Because-
like I said, I really appreciate you all giving us this chance. Even if it's a bad eye story, I want the public to hear it from me, right? I want to take out all the cloak and dagger to it. I'd rather you hear the real story from exactly what's going on. And, that's opened myself up to a lot of threats. Unfortunately, I had protesters show up at my house that my family had to deal with. But I would much rather be the voice for the men and women of ICE, especially ERO Boston, and everyone in the state and Commonwealth hear exactly the issues or the good things we're doing or the bad things we did, right? I'm just happy that platforms like this have given us the opportunity just to kind of educate the person that might not know exactly what the story was, just a little bit more info, and they can decide on themselves how they feel about the law enforcement we're doing.
It's hard sometimes to speak up and to speak out, and we're grateful for people like you that will do it and still take, the daggers for everybody else. And as far as the Red Whine goes and all our listeners, please tell your whole team that we're praying for them. We pray for you. We appreciate everything they do. And, I don't know what we can do about the morale other than to know that this is educating the public to know exactly what you're dealing with. And we are behind you 100%. And we will still keep educating the public and finding ways that we can make some positive change for all you guys.
That'd be great.
Yes, thank you guys very much.
Yeah, no, thank you all for what you guys do too. And like I said, let me come on here and tell the good works that my men and women do, because they do some great stuff for the Commonwealth. So I really appreciate the invite.
We'd love to have you back again.
All right, great. Thanks. Good talking to you.
Thank you so much. Have a
Bye-bye.
great week. Have a great week, everybody.
Hey, just as long as
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, pop up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu and drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
The following program may contain coarse language, adult themes, and host drinking copious amounts of wine. Listener discretion is advised.
stuff for me. Chateau Timberlake, as long as I can see. Gallo, a muscatel, either one would be just swell. I feel it coming here to fight. Hey, just as long as that ain't what. Red, red wine, red, red wine, red, red wine. You would.
Good evening, everyone. This is Diane from the Red Whine, joined by the wonderful Darylyn.
Hello,
also Red
everybody.
Whine. So Darylyn and I, for like the first time in probably a very long time, didn't speak at all today. So this could be a very interesting conversation.
Well, I have, we lost the district attorney's race here on the Cape. We haven't had a Democrat district attorney since 1970, but we've already added a little bit of flavor. One of the potential assistant district attorneys had the tables turned on her. She turned the tables on others. She was tased.
Tased?
She was tased. She was tased by, if you want, I'll give you a brief reading of the report. And I think this is funny. So are you aware of what a Brady list is? A Brady list is if you're found to have purposely misled facts, otherwise lied, or lied on an affidavit lied with facts to put on an affidavit, which would give you a search warrant to search someone's home, and you did it purposely and knowingly that what you put forth was false, you'll be put on the Brady list, which basically establishes you as having zero credibility. However, the Plymouth District Attorney's Office, where Kathleen Flannery works, and by the looks of her, neither one of us want to roll around with her. I mean, put a couple drinks in her, and the word tough broad comes to mind, but I'll read a little to you. On November 22nd, Officer Corbett was assigned to uniform patrol on a Marks State police cruiser when he was dispatched to a central address for a verbal domestic. This is where it gets tricky. Upon my arrival, I was met at the front door of the residence, where I was met by a female party who agreed to step and speak to me in the driveway. The female party appeared to be very upset, and she was visibly shaking and crying, and reportedly stated to me, "I'm worried about the safety of my daughter being inside with her." Now, here's the tricky part. I returned to the front door and was met by the female party's daughter. I guided the daughter out of the residence. At this time, the female party's ex-husband came outside from a separate garage apartment on the premises and stated he would take care of assuming it's his, I don't know, daughter for the time being. Well, apparently, the female party had been arguing, the female party with her ex-husband who lives on the property, stated that she was fighting with her fiance, Kathleen Flannery, the assistant district attorney in Plymouth, who was still inside the home in Centerville. So
all in the family brings a whole new meaning.
I mean, I suppose if they had a great relationship and all of a sudden, I'm sure it wasn't all of a sudden, but she decided, I'm lesbian and, you're a great guy and thanks for the child. And we're going to co-parent the child and live on the same property. Probably, okay, fine. But I'll tell you, if it had been a heterosexual couple, I don't think, gay and lesbian have this great affinity for being able to stay friends after they break up because it's such a small community.
Right.
Which, I think is wonderful. A lot of the, gay girls that I know, they'll be like, oh, this is so-and-so, and she used to date her, and she used to live. I'm like, what? And I said, how do you do that? I mean, because jealousy is jealousy. I don't care,
male or female.
Yeah, right. And that's what they said, that the community is so small that you really can't extricate yourself from it. So we learned to live with it. But all right, so let me get on with this. As I spoke with Flannery in an attempt to ascertain what was going on, she repeatedly told me to call a detective in Yarmouth who could help her. Don't you know who I am? I stated to Flannery that I was simply trying to figure out what was going on. And she said, is this document going to be documented? And it would go on a record? Because she's currently applying for a job at the Barnstable District Attorney's Office. So this was erroneously claimed to be the first assistant for the district attorney-elect Rob Galliboy, but it's not. It's simply an assistant district attorney, she would not be in a leadership position, but I wonder if she would even be an attorney after this. I don't know. But she says that they had, some pushing and grabbing, and she says, "You're not arresting me. I'm going to be an ADA working with you." He took control of her wrist, and she repeatedly told Flannery to stop resisting. And then, kind of a little fight ensued, right? She was thrashing violently with both, and they tased her. So she was telling him, "I am not under arrest." Continued thrashing her arms and legs. Upon reaching my cruiser, Flannery immediately stating, "You cannot put me in there." As soon as I opened the door, another patrolman, Brown, nice guy, attempted to put Flannery in the rear of the cruiser and said, "Get in the car." And they were able to physically assist her in the car, but however, her legs were still outside the vehicle and she started kicking them. So she kept saying that we can't arrest her. So due to her noncompliance, someone else came and drew her taser, and there you go. She yelled, "You can't tase me." Well, I'll tell you.
I would have loved to
sorry,
have heard
Kathleen.
what she said after they tased her, because she probably would be like, "You tase me."
When I was in the academy, you could volunteer to be tased. No, thank you. It was just all of a sudden someone becomes. You would think they would drop right to the ground, but they look like a piece of wood, like a shaking piece of wood. And so the stun drive gun had immediate effect, and Flannery put her legs inside the cruiser. So it's amazing how that happens.
I know.
And I'm sorry that she obviously has a drinking problem. She was at one of the local establishments down here, but you have to understand that. Well, I don't know if she understands now. First of all, I don't think Rob Galliboy is going to take that. I mean, he's a Democrat. Aside from that, I can't imagine that he would still employ her. I mean, if
Really?
he does, I'll be very disappointed if he does. I think she would have to have a huge Democrat dime. How do you have any credibility left? You have to go be a tax attorney now. Sorry.
Well, I mean, if she, well, granted, is that considered a misdemeanor, or?
You attacked a police officer.
Okay, so maybe it's not a misdemeanor, but if she's charged and convicted, that should immediately disqualify her, period, from being an assistant district attorney.
So say.
But you don't know when it comes to the Democrats, they seem to promote and reward when, for most bad behavior anyway.
Well, I'll tell you, I will lose some respect if this girl gets hired down here. That's all I have to say is you can't be an attorney and be an assistant district attorney and be the one who's enforcing the law. And I don't care if you're drunk or not, but you're going to tell the police officers that you're going to ruin their career by putting them on the Brady list, which is laughable because Plymouth County never puts anybody on the Brady list.
I think in New Hampshire it's called the Lori list.
Is it?
But it's for mostly for like police officers that lie, or have been terminated with cause, whatnot. They end up on the Lori list if they've had some sort of discipline. And I know in New Hampshire there's been a big lawsuit because a lot of like the local newspapers sued the state and the state police, and mostly the state Attorney General's office, I think, that maintained this Lori list because they wanted the names of the officers made public, because before all they did was say what town.
Well, this is supposed to be public. So if you Freedom of Information Act, who's on the Brady list, they're supposed to release it.
Yeah,
But
they
wait
until
they've been arrested and convicted, and then they put them on the list. But it's too late then.
Well, these are officers that they're still certified officers. They've actually gone on to other departments, or if it was egregious, obviously they're no longer, they lost a certification as a police officer, but they've said that it doesn't make sense if you only have the department where it happened and you don't have any description of why, and you don't have any knowledge of who. Even police departments, obviously, when chiefs, when they do the background checks, it's obviously going to come up and whatnot because they give the whole folder, and usually they sign a release that says that they can look at any and all files, one would hope. But then again, it could be similar if they resign, similar to teachers and parish priests and whatnot. If they resign and they go on elsewhere and people don't know, that's a huge problem.
Well, this is just crazy. I mean, you're going to assault your domestic partner.
Have you ever tased someone with a smile on your face? I've always been curious about this.
I know. I never had a chance to tase anybody.
What?
By the time I got the taser, I think I had been promoted to lieutenant. I had to reluctantly carry it. And the thing is, it was such a, I forget what the exact rule was. It was, you can't leave it in your cruiser, but you're not supposed to, I forget what it was. And then you had to test it every morning.
What did you test it on? Hubby, come here.
Well, no, not on a person, but I forget how you even do it. But
imagine that. You pissed me off last night, dear.
But here's what I don't get. So as an assistant district attorney, that a report's going to be written, and you should have the understanding that.
Yeah.
I don't know if the constable has a video. I don't know if they have cameras or not.
Well, let's talk about this, okay? Why don't? Because I know here in New Hampshire, the state police finally got a grant where the majority of them have cameras within this past year or so. Our department's had cameras for, I don't know, 3-4 years. The body cams. I mean, but obviously it's important that they have the policy, and the policy in our town is the second you get out of the vehicle, your camera goes on. It's been a lot of, it works for the police officer, but it also works for the incident,
Well, what it works against is, and I'm sure legislatures have found this out, David LaBeouf, who I think he drove on, 3 wheels and 1 wheel and 3 rims for a while after coming back from a quote vote, that the camera's on. The downside of it is that you can't have a phone call. You can't call your wife. Everything you do is reported. There's a lack of privacy there. And, I used to like to sing in the car every once in a while, drive down.
Well, no, this is I think I'm talking more of the body cam.
That's what I mean.
But the body cam goes on in our department. I think the policy for the body cam goes on when you're at a scene or something like that. Like if you have to get out of the cruiser.
It's what I understand. It's always on and allegedly not recording. But what it turned into is, my understanding is, this police administration under Chris Mason and Scott Warrington has been some of the lesser tolerated administrations, because they use the cameras and the GPS locators to discipline certain people. So if you leave your driveway at 7:03, why did you leave your driveway at 7:03? Where someone who, may work in a detective unit doesn't have to turn the GPS on. So it was never agreed upon in the bargaining agreement before they ended up having to wear the body cam. So I think it's great when it works for the, obviously for the police officer. I'm sure it's right on a lot of complaints. But I just love that she's on the phone, and the police officers say to her, because she goes back into the house, this was before she was tased, and she's supposedly gathering her things, but she's not. She goes to the bedroom and she says that she's talking to one of, quote, her detectives. So obviously one of her detectives from the Plymouth County.
What did she think, that they were going to do the good old boy handshake phone call and say, hey?
Well, you can't do that anymore because everything is recorded on the body cam, if in fact they had body cams on. But she's 33 years old, so she's not a 24-year-old newly out of college. in a Girls Gone Wild video. She's supposed to be above this sort of fray and don't you know who I am? And we used to get this kind of attitude from some of the attorneys that worked in the Attorney General's office. I don't know why, but a lot of them were egotistical above their capacity.
Like, don't you know who I am?
Right.
Well, if they did have body cams, that should be available.
Well, I don't know if they do. And this
it won't.
Hyannis News.
It probably won't be available until it's adjudicated. A lot of times they won't, unless they decide to release it for public information. But a lot of times, if it's used in a case, they might not release it, right? I don't know.
I'm not sure because it's so new that I had already retired once this had been, once it's been in place. So
I don't. What you mean, like when you put the lights on when you were late for your hair appointment?
Carol. But what I'm saying is that you should know, first of all, that everything that you say is going to be written down. I mean, these people just don't know who she is, and even if they did know who she was, this sort of thing, used to go on a long time ago, where you would, oh, someone's a good guy, I did the right thing, and I said, well, you could do that a long time ago if someone was, you want to help somebody out at risking your career. But now when someone says, I did the right thing, I said, absolutely not, you did not. I said, your problem was you wanted everybody to know that you did the right thing. So you called on the radio, you said that he was drunk, you tried to call his chief, that phone call is recorded. Use your head. And she's going to have to go to a detox. That's the only way I see her having any kind of mea culpa. Because can you see her doing a domestic assault and battery case and the defense attorney saying, so
she wouldn't be able to.
You beat up your girlfriend.
Well, and by rights, they have to follow the law. The who they consider the aggressor has to be removed from the situation, right? Isn't that the way it normally works?
It's preference to arrest. I don't know that it's specifically mandated, but it's preference. What I'd like to know is, did she take the breathalyzer when I just want to know how drunk she was. That's what
I would. If she wouldn't get in the darn cruiser and they had a taser, I'm kind of thinking she might not have done the breathalyzer.
She's not a little girl.
She'd be the one that we'd mouth off to, and then we'd be like, "We're running."
Well, she said she's between 240 and 250 pounds. She's more of a rugby player than she's. Her LinkedIn profile said that she was a cross country. Like a cross country runner?
Cross country, I don't know, testing out the alcoholic beverages, maybe?
Well, so now, of course, you have to go back to St. A's and see how many girls she punched in the face when she was in college.
Oh, she went to St. A's?
She went to St. A's.
How old is she?
She went to, let me see, on her LinkedIn profile, she said that she went to law school part-time for 3 years, and then the last year she went full-time, which seems like a long time. She was a substitute teacher in Sandwich for a short amount of time, and I wrongly asked one of my friends, I said, did your twins ever have her as a teacher? She worked there for 2011 and 2012. My kids were born in 2010. I'm like, oh my God. I have no sense of time anymore, with my kids.
Gone.
So she's not a dumb person. It seems like she maybe has an alcohol problem. She worked at the district attorney's office in 2020. She was a full-time law. So 2014 to 2019, she attended law school. But it looks like she was in the honors program, Delta Epsilon Sigma, women's varsity cross country, honors degree. Honors program, Dean's List, 6 out of the 8
obviously
semesters,
did not learn how to control her temper. Her attitude.
And the alcohol has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah, but when the attitude comes out, that's your attitude.
I myself just can't be involved with someone who has an addiction like that. I mean, it's so hard to build a life with someone who's going to, drink and drive and potentially, kill someone, if not in a domestic dispute. I feel bad for people that suffer with that. I feel the sympathy for the families and the friends as well. That's why I've always been an advocate for, different modalities for addiction, because it's a life ruiner. I mean, and it ruins everybody else's life.
Yeah. It's hard.
It's kind of like my shoe addiction that I had a number of years ago. only Oxfords, because I can't wear heels. So
down.
I love the Cole Haans.
I'm literally
I
crying
love
right
the
now.
Cole Haans. I tell you, I love a pair of saddle shoes. I don't care if they are in style, out of style. I wear them with sweatpants, jeans, shorts. I don't care. I love them.
Saddle shoes?
I love them. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm crying inside right now.
Speaking of saddle shoes, how about Sam Brinton? Did I say Brinton? Brinton. Arrested for a second time.
I mean,
so this is just oddest. To me, this is just the oddest.
I want to know why he did not put lipstick on in his mugshot. He had no problem wearing it everywhere else. I'm sorry, but I just need to let you know that when you wear a lipstick shade that color, you really don't need the hair around your face. I'm just saying, some of these outfits are just. But Darren, did you read about his lifestyle?
Yes.
Okay. This is concerning to me because it kind of is like tying in all of this craziness that's going on. What do they call BDM? I don't even know any of that stuff, that I would admit to. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke, everybody.
We all know better. You can quit pretending.
We're not calling you Diane Quivers.
Oh, no. But when you think about
what would be your naughty name? What was his drag queen name? It was it was something to do with nuclear energy.
Ew.
Miss nuclear something. I don't know.
Ew.
I know. But the mugshot is concerning, isn't it?
It's concerning when he goes to where I don't know if it was a conference where he had 3 guys dressed as dogs in front of him, and then
I know. What is going on? And the thing is, whatever, I mean, if you're not hurting anybody and that's what you like, I don't care. But isn't it better kept a secret? I mean, is that something we really need to be sharing at this point?
I'm not sure that seeing something like that in any way, shape, or form would be, trying to make a person horny. I'm just saying. That's going to be kind of that's a big no.
But, I mean, we know that people
have really? So someone wearing a dog mask going woof woof? Oh, yeah, I want you. Come on.
I don't know. Have I ever told you about the guy, Sammy Sultan, who threatened to kill me? He had a foot fetish. I would love to have the FBI. He's now retired now. I wonder if he would agree to come on. I don't know if he will, because he's very private and very professional. But so Sammy Sultan called the barracks, and I want to say 2000. Well, I don't even remember when it was, but I was a sergeant at the time, and he asked for. I'd like to speak to a female sergeant. I said, I just answered the phone. State Police Filthy Armor Sergeant Haywood. I need. I'm with someone, and I'm gonna hurt them. And I'm like, okay, here we go. First, I want to ask you some questions. I'm like, okay. He goes, what type of slippers do you wear? I'm like, excuse me. So now I think I'm getting punked by one of my friends, calling the barracks and punking me. But we were all in there eating dinner, so I put it on speakerphone. And I go, excuse me, what did you say? I said, I don't wear slippers. Well, if you were going to walk on the beach and the stone was going to get stuck in your toe, which one would it be in? And I was like, who the hell is this? He goes, answer my questions or I'm going to hurt this person. And you could hear you couldn't tell if it was real or, I mean, at the time I was like, okay, this is odd.
Odd?
And
Really? You want to use a stronger phrase?
Right, we went around for about, well, we hear everything. So we were around for about 5 minutes. I asked him where he was. I pulled up the map. He said he was in Plymouth. So he'd give the side streets and everything. So we did some good recon. And again, I have no idea who he is. So I hang up on him. Well, he calls back and he goes, Sergeant Haywood, this is Mike Reese from WILD. You have just won. I'm like, weren't you just the stuttering guy that just called me? So I guess you cannot stutter when you kind of sing, when you have more of a singy voice.
I don't know.
So I hung up on him again and he called back. And that's when he's like, I'm gonna kill you and I'm gonna see you and you're not gonna see me. I'm gonna come in your house and you see your kids and get the slippers. I was like, whoa, that's when it changed. And so I had him on speaker and I motioned to one of the guys to call into the headquarters and see if they could track the call. Well, that's when the FBI showed up and the guys from the detective unit that I used to work with. And you've never been to this house, but I have like an 800-foot driveway and it was February. It was a full moon. There's no leaves on the trees. And I called my husband, OG. I'm like, can you wait in the kitchen for me? This guy threatened to kill me. He's like, until 11:30. I go, did you not hear the part where I said this guy threatened to kill me? It's cold outside. I don't want to get shot and lay in the driveway and be bleeding 10 feet from my door. I mean, that's what I was worried about. Like, I didn't want to be alive and cold and bleeding.
Especially cold.
The cold part. Like, I can just picture myself like in my full uniform, right, bleeding, laying on the cold slab of rock out here and not being able to yell or scream. So he comes down, but I'll tell you, the hair in the back of my neck, when I started driving down the driveway and the moon's coming through the tree branches with no leaves. And I thought, wow, what a perfect shot someone would have for him. Right? This was going through my head.
Most normal people would be like, it's a picture. Oh my God, that literally scared the daylights out of me.
And of course, I'm driving and it's 11:30, 12 o'clock. It might have been 1 o'clock at night after I got done being debriefed by everybody. And, I don't know that this guy's in California. I mean, we find out 3 days later that he's in California. Of course, I'm telling my kids I don't want to scare them, but I think my twins were 8 and my daughter was 9 at the time. Lock the doors, don't let anybody in. And you don't want to scare them either. But turns out that he was smoking meth in his parents' basement. And so they went to the U.S. attorney in Massachusetts and they said, well, he only threatened to kill one trooper. And I was like, okay, whatever. I kind of get that. But what had turned out was this agent was Tim Quinn from the FBI. He was in the Lakeville office. He's retired now, but he tracked this guy down. I guess he had called over, 40,000 police departments, fire departments, ambulance services, always asked for a female. And then he started to escalate. Last year, he called Tufts University and said that he was in the room hiding under a bed.
Oh, geez.
Right. I know. So he's just cuckoo, but he ended up doing like 2 years. So every time he gets out, I get a notice from the federal government because he threatened to kill me. But his name was Sammy Sultan. I wish I had the picture of him, but
well, we'll have to find it and put it on the Red Whine.
I know. So you just see these things they're so crazy as a police officer. So, I mean, the first thing you should do is shut your mouth if the police come. You don't mouth off, I'm going to call my whatever. And this guy, well, if I took the wrong luggage, it was a mistake because my clothes were in there. What?
How could his clothes be in there? It wasn't his luggage.
So I'm thinking, so what does he do? Does he go to the airport, right? And he's like checking out women. Oh, she's a size 12. I bet she was a 14 heel. Let me check out her luggage.
14 heel.
All right, so I'll tell you one other little cuckoo story. I think people like these kind of crazy stories, but I had this one death, and I was pregnant at the time, and my supervisor was like, I kind of goofing around, like, I don't know what this is. You've been a detective longer than me. Why don't you go in there and take a look? I go, does it smell? Because I'm pregnant. If it smells, I don't want to go in there. He's like, no. It was it was this shed, and there was mirrors, and it was like a 10 by 12 shed, and there was this room that was cornered off. But prior to going in, so you go into the shed, and I noticed these shoe boxes. And like I said, when you're pregnant, you can't buy anything else. And I would buy shoes or pocketbooks, but these shoes are stacked up to like shoulder level. There must have been like 200 or 300 or 400 pairs of heels, all size 14. This guy was in there, in this room there was O2 and nitrous oxide hanging from the ceiling, and he had a gas mask on his face. He was obviously dead, and had terrible women's lingerie on, but these beautiful pairs, size 14, red, 4-inch stiletto heels. But the garter belt was like something a nurse would wear in the 1920s, like beige, like ugly. And then this really nice, like red thong and this black lacy bra that obviously he didn't have any breasts. So it like just looked ridiculous. But so his girlfriend comes in. Now I had been in narcotics for 10 years. So all I'm thinking is, how am I going to write this up? Because you normally say, I appeared on the scene, blah, blah, blah. I came upon so-and-so, and he was clad in a t-shirt and jeans and had a gun in his left hand. I didn't want to have to describe that because I wasn't sure, what the family knew or didn't know. So the girlfriend comes in, and I'm trying to say, what I want to say is
this his usual attire?
Does he have problems? But what I say to her is, does he have any mental problems? And she goes, well, look at him. I go, I meant, has he been suicidal in the past? She goes, oh, this wasn't a suicide. This was an accident. He does this all the time.
What? Oh. So is it one of those like,
there you go.
Oh, that's weird. No, I'm here.
I don't know if anybody else can hear me, but
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I seem to be here by myself.
No, you're not.
Rick?
Hello?
Are you there? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, and I can hear her. I don't know why she can't hear us, because she's still coming through.
Oh.
But I think she might be gone now.
Oh. Are we on the air still?
Yeah, we are.
Gosh darn it, that was very interesting stuff.
I don't know where she went.
Are you trying to bring her back?
Yeah, hang on. I'm going to try dropping her and bring her back. It actually still shows that she's on the call. So let me kick her out.
I don't know about all you guys out there, but
let me kick her out.
Make sure that if you're going to accidentally die, make sure your outfit matches and is not necessarily the wrong gender.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear us now?
I don't know what happened.
I heard everything you said.
Yeah, we were hearing you just fine. You just couldn't hear us. So I kicked you out and added you back.
Yeah. So I just said that if you're going to knock yourself off, even by accident, just make sure you're wearing the proper outfit. Isn't that the old thing that your mom used to say? You want to make sure you have clean underwear in case you get killed or you have to go to the hospital.
No, right? Like, that's what you're going to be worried about.
I know. Because it will reflect badly on your mother.
Oh my gosh. That is just insane. But, as far as what I'm wearing, I have to wait till I open up the suitcase and see what's in there. I mean, how many suitcases does this person have, and what do they do with them?
Well, and that's the interesting part, because he had also like $3,000 or somewhere around there worth of someone's jewelry. But he kept this thing, and then he calls up. I can totally picture him going, I might not have been so honest with you. Like, I was a bad boy. Bad, whatever he is.
Spank me.
Oh, do you really need that doggy mask for your canine? Because I'd have better use for it.
Oh my gosh. I just can't even. I can't.
I'm kind of thinking my disclaimer wasn't strong enough for this show.
Well, this is tame if you read his description of things that he's been doing.
Holy moly. I read that and I was like, oh shit, there are people out there that are like that.
Well, and just the fact that they thought it was okay to hire this person. I mean,
Well, he fit all the boxes.
But he's crazy. He's a thief. He's a klepto. And I understand this is a fetish. This is a fetish?
I think his whole life is a fetish.
I don't know. I just very, 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 very incompatible with the type of people that he's working with. I mean, did you see, I don't know if you saw, if I sent it to you, the picture of him in the paper on the, I'm sorry, on, I don't know if it was Epic Times, I'm not really sure. It might even been like Newsmax. But the person behind him, you know, he's all smiles with his red lipstick. And the person behind him is obviously security. He's got this look in his face like,
Yeah,
what
I mean,
the
imagine having to
I-
be his security. They'd be like, oh,
right. Can you hold my
God.
pocketbook? Oh,
Oh,
the whip fell out.
excuse me, I have to go pet this dog. He identifies as a dog. Oh, the fun things we can do, but I'm not into bestiality, I promise. But I can be a beast.
You can just like, you can't, like we used to say, me and a friend of mine, Cam, you can't make this shit up. You just cannot make it up. So then it makes me wonder, like, what else are they hiding of people who are really like insane? I mean, I don't get it. And it goes back to trying to normalize pedophilia.
Yep.
Which is really disgusting. And this is the Citizens for Responsible Education, I think, in Massachusetts. And they're so upset about these, you know, they call them drag queens. And I said, listen, just call them what they are. They're men in dresses that want to twerk half naked in front of children. Stop calling them drag queens, because it's an insult to drag queens. I love a good drag queen show, you know, just as much as everybody. I go down to P-Town a lot. I love it down there. But it shouldn't take place in a children's library. And I think you have to focus more on the behavior and not the orientation.
I had a theory. You know, I was thinking about this the other day because I'm like, what's behind? And it's similar to, you know, when I wondered why liberals were so crazy when Donald Trump won, because it wasn't a normal reaction for 3-4 years, however long. I mean, they were really insane. So now I wonder what's behind this latest push to, you know, for transgenders, you know, puberty blockers, whatnot. What's behind the latest push? And then it boils down in my mind to lowering the age of consent. And then who's behind it? Well, I'll tell you who I think is behind it, because in the past few years, the LGBTQ community has really, I want to say, and it's not the LGB community,
That's what I
it's the
wanted to make
QT community.
Right.
Because,
and they kind of hijack.
Because what I feel like it is because they put themselves onto the letter group. Okay. So now you have.
They stole it though. They hijacked it.
Yeah. But now you have this other group that are pedophiles that are trying to also latch onto it. So I said to myself, what could be behind this, you know, big push and nationwide, you know, where basically the transgender queer community is, I'll say it, marginalizing. I don't either.
But
they're marginalizing the lesbian, gay, and bisexual group. You don't hear anything about them anymore, really.
Right.
But who's behind it and who stands to benefit if you normalize and lower the age of consent? Who would benefit from it? It would be all of these big, like Jeffrey Epstein people, the powerful ones that like the kids, that it's called payback. And the payback is, we're going to get the word out and we're going to normalize this when it comes to the kids, because if you can't, you know, what they're using, and I was shocked when I actually read it, what they're using for the puberty blockers is the same thing that causes the chemical castration in prisoners. And we're giving this, and we have doctors that are saying it's okay to give to kids. It's not okay to give to kids.
Well, here's what happens. In William Peters, who ran for state rep in the 1st district here in Barnstable, said it. He studied viruses at Johns Hopkins. He also, I'm trying to remember he was at University of Alabama, and he was at Princeton, I believe. those people are bullied just like everyone else. The medical community is bullied as well. Now, I haven't had this at my pediatrician, but a friend of mine called me absolutely outraged the other day that she called to make an appointment for her daughter who's at boarding school. She's a really good athlete. She's at boarding school. And she was making an appointment. And they said to the mother, well, we can't give you the link. Your daughter's going to have to call in. She's like, my daughter's 13 and you can give me the link and I will text it to her. We're not allowed to do that. You don't need to know the physical schedule, blah, 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 of who your daughter sees. And she's like, what? I said, you need to immediately find a new pediatrician.
Oh, yeah.
But what they're trying to do is they're trying to say that if you say that a child can make their own medical decisions at 12, that you're saying that they have autonomy over their body and that they can make their own decisions on their body. And in France, you can have sex with a minor as long as you're not more than 10 years older than them. So a 24-year-old can have sex with a 14-year-old. It's just...
Well, how about a 20-year-old with a 10-year-old?
It's disgusting. It's disgusting because it ruins kids. I've had cases where a father had sex with 4 of his daughters and had children with them and then molested his grandchildren/children.
Jesus.
And they didn't want to be seen as victims. And when they allowed him to watch their kids, his grandkids, their actual kid, you know what I mean? It's gross.
Yeah.
When I went to them and said this happened, they said, well, I didn't think that he would do it to my child. I go, you mean his child? Just like he did to you. And it's extremely damaging. And these parents that are taking their kids to the library to see this, I can only imagine that, it's like having I don't know, what's a good pocketbook? You're a pocketbook queen.
Louis Vuitton.
Like
Fendi.
having a Louis Vuitton, I have a Louis Vuitton. Well, I take my child to drag queen shows. I'm so cool.
And the thing is they're so choosy in public libraries, obviously, about what goes in there. And it's you know what, you want to have drag queens, fine. But what's the purpose? What is the purpose behind having it? Are you reading them the books that, might not be appropriate for a child that age that a parent should be reading
Put
to
it
them?
this way, if I went down there and took my clothes off and started to twerk in front of a bunch of kids, what do you think would happen to me?
You'd be arrested.
Of course I would.
Of course, the other people watching it might be like, what the hell?
I might make some money. Throw me some dollars.
But here's the thing. And this goes right to your competitor down the Cape. Mm-hmm. We now have in Nantucket more nude beaches. Fine and dandy if you want to sit there and see that. And I should say Martha's Vineyard, right?
All nude beaches.
But
in Nantucket.
But not Nantucket.
Beaches.
It's like everybody can go topless there. Really? Well, I can assure you that you probably wouldn't want to see these south hanging left and right. I mean, they're saying, oh, it's okay. Everybody will be topless because men will be topless.
Well, what they're calling it is gender equity. And, although.
Yeah, so now you're going to have. Now you're going to have, teen boys, teen girls. You're going to have old fuddy-duddies checking out the teen girls if they decide to go topless.
Taking pictures. Now you're, people come over from, whatever, they come from France or whatever. But, I mean, first of all, and that's the thing with some of these people. They're just so cuckoo that they're like, it's fine for my daughter to be topless. I'm like, there's going to be strangers taking a picture of her and posting them on sites.
Uh-huh.
And then your daughter's going to go to college and she's going to find out that she's been on 5 million porn sites.
Yeah, probably.
And the woman who started this, I don't remember her name and I don't want to give her any credit anyways, but she's like a sex coach.
I always wondered what type of person needs a sex coach.
I don't know. Who knows? I don't even know anymore. I don't even know.
I mean,
round hole, square peg. Nope. I don't know. It's just like anything goes now. It's, I was mortified.
There's no boundaries anymore.
I was mortified when Tinder came out. I was like, so you go online and you swipe some, and then you go
You have to swipe right.
And of course, I'm thinking, what if they kill you? How do you know they're not? You know what I mean? Because
always meet in a public place and always keep full view of your drink. And if you go to the bathroom, order a new one.
I mean, this is just so weird. Like, so you meet a total stranger and you go have sex with them. And I understand you've already promised sex, so that's okay. But what if they want to kill you afterwards?
Like that person in Provincetown.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that poor guy. I just can picture someone trying to cut somebody's arm off with a buck knife.
I shouldn't laugh about it, but
I know. Man, damn, this is hard work. I'm going to go get a drink and tell everybody. That's when I first learned about, I don't think it was called Grindr then. I don't know what it was called, but that was my
introduction.
Oh, great. Provincetown cop that I'm still friends with. And he just gave myself and another trooper, Carol, that I worked with, he gave us the whole down low on the whole scene. And, I just had my eyes open because it was my first gay domestic too. And I was just, one guy slapping the other guy and calling him a bitch. And then the other, I don't know, it was just, I didn't know what to do. It was just so out of we didn't learn that in the academy in 1993,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I didn't know that those gay relationships can be so volatile.
Yeah, they actually can be.
I mean,
they can be. I mean, we have.
Kathleen Flanagan hasn't been around a couple volatile relationships.
We used to during summer months because there's a couple that live a couple houses down during the summer. They'd be getting in some pretty good screaming matches. I'd be like, well, who the hell? Who's gonna win that one?
Oh,
whatever.
Luckily, we live, we have about 4 and a quarter acres here, and I don't think anybody can hear us yell. So that's a good and a bad. Oh my gosh, I didn't tell you this. So my niece just turned 7 or 6, and I birthed her in my sister's home totally by accident. And her name's Quinn. And my sister, who's 16 years younger than me, used to always buy my kids really noisy toys. And you know how I hate that. I hate that. Like, too much going on. I'm really ADD. I can't have like a conversation and the TV and the radio and the tea pot going off. It makes me crazy. I bought them at Ocean State Job Lot. $24, the best $24 I ever spent. It's a megaphone that takes 8 D batteries. Mom, can I have some milk?
Has she called you up to yell yet?
No, but my brother-in-law grabbed it. He goes, that thing's going in the trash. I'm like, you never know, it might come in handy. You're on the boat, you're out fishing, the engine dies. You might be reaching for those D batteries and the big one. So,
sometimes you just gotta sit there and pay them back.
Well, what I used to do.
I used to call them the noise toys. I don't like noise toys.
Well, that was my sister. She's 16 years younger than me. She's my mother's third husband. So she grew up in a totally different environment. Private school, Cape Cod Academy was like $14,000 to go to kindergarten.
Oh,
and I love her to death, but she doesn't know what compound interest is. And when I told her I was running for Senate, she's like, I'll vote for you, but I really don't know what a senator does. I'm like, are you registered to vote?
It's amazing how much the kids don't know. And that's, again, we gotta really push making civics mandatory to graduate.
Well, I went to the Chatham Republican town committee meeting on Monday, and those people were really good to me when I was running. And we talked about, what do we need to do as Republicans to kind of pull this together? And I was telling them that you and I spoke on our last show. I actually gave them the link and told them there's 4.7 million voters in Massachusetts, but only 540,000 of them are registered Republicans.
And only the same amount pretty much are registered Democrats.
Well, I think it's a 1.7 million are registered Democrats, and like I think another 2 million are unenrolled.
But think about that. That goes right along the line of how New Hampshire is. I mean, it's literally 30% enrolled Democrats and 30% enrolled Republicans, and then you get the 40% that can swing the whole state either way.
Now, what do you have as far? You have no income tax, or
no income tax, no sales tax.
But what about the? Are you getting rid of a tax on dividends? Like if you have stocks, I think by 2027 you'll get rid of that.
I haven't heard that they're going to be getting rid of it, but I mean that's one way that the state makes income. Also, the business enterprise tax from businesses, but we've and of course it's a killer, but property taxes are high.
They are okay. What's your like? I have 4.25 acres here, and I think my property tax is like $5,500 a year.
And I pretty much pay that, and I don't even have a full acre. Wow. But it varies. It varies by, like, for example, Alton, which is the town next to where I am. But they have the whole basin of Lake Winnipesaukee, so you have $1 million homes that are on the lake. So you have the homeowners, you have businesses that are there, so you can end up with a tax rate of say $12 per per thousand, let's say, of the home. So you might only pay like $1,100 in taxes, let's just say.
Okay.
And our town, we have nothing. We have 2 post offices, which is a miracle. No banks, no nothing. Our tax rate is like $20-something. And that funds the schools, it funds the towns, and it's on the back.
What's your electorate in that town? Does it go by town or county or district, just like us?
Electorate? In my area, it's 2-to-1 Republican to Democrat.
And have you seen or heard of General Bolduc or Caroline Levitt?
I have not seen them yet. Carolyn Levitt, no one's heard from her at all. I haven't heard a peep out of her or Don Bolduc.
Well, I have a friend who is friends with her campaign manager. I spoke to her. Lorraine Cambria met her at CPAC last year, and I did speak to her in April or May or so. Very accommodating. Real nice person. I woke her up. She was in Arizona, so there was a time difference, which I felt terrible about. But I'm going to reach out to them, and I'd love to know what their next plans are.
Well, yeah, are they going to run again in 2024? If they are going to run again, I'd suggest any candidate that's going to start running now.
How much money did she raise? Do we know?
She had a fair chunk of change. I mean, millions easily, but a lot of it was out of state money.
Well, I mean, she worked for Trump.
And I think, and honestly, he may have endorsed her, but it wasn't really out in the forefront in the state.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, being on the ground and everything, no one said, "Oh my God, I got to vote for Caroline Levitt because Donald Trump is supporting her." But
right.
And I think as far as Donald Trump goes, like I said, if he's the candidate, I will support him. Very displeased about his comments when it came to the Constitution. You don't mess with the Constitution. I don't give a shit.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because earlier today I had been just, doing a little bit of research for our next show. And there was this woman, oh gosh, I wish I could remember her name. She was the press secretary for Mike Pence. Do you remember her name? Unfortunately, she's now on The View, which I just want to poke myself in the eye.
Oh God, she's one of those too. Anna, nope, can't remember their names.
Oh,
Farrah something or other.
Yes. Her middle name is Farrah. You imagine if I went by Daryl and Andrea Haywood all the time? Just put in my middle name all the time. Cut it out.
Mine would be Diane Marie Juliana.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
That was my confirmation name because I was into the flowery, like Felicia Juliana names.
Well, it's so funny because typically when people badmouth Trump, it's with this extreme vitriol. But I have to say that she's a little bit full of herself, but she was a great speaker. And even though she was saying kind of naughty things, I wasn't heavily offended because I respected the way she said it. Does that make sense?
But she also says some pretty crappy shit too, though. So, but she does stand up for the Republican Party when they pile on her. But I don't even know who's
Alyssa Farah Griffin.
Yeah, but we need to decide what and I'm gonna reach out to Michael Johns. I want to get him on the show because he was one of the original founders of like the Tea Party movement, because that really is the last time Republicans really united and got excited about getting out to vote. And I think we need to do something like that again for 2024. And it's going to be parental rights and save our kids. Because if we don't, the path, there's no, and I know we're pretty much at the end of our show, so we'll have to continue this on our next one. But, we need to save families. We need to get some morals back because they're gone. It's like it's an anything goes lifestyle now. And it's not anything goes.
It's our morals aren't necessarily gone, but people.
I don't have a lot of morals, but sometimes they do show up.
Here's my morals. I really like Cape Red, Merlot, and Cabernet. But if I really had to, I would drink a $14 bottle of wine, and that's where my wine morals go. As far as anything,
I drink like a 14 bottle Riesling. I was so proud of myself. I'm 30 something and I'm finally drinking wine. I used to look at all these people going, they look so elegant drinking wine, but I don't like it. I'd be there with my Bacardi and Coke or whatever. But now I'm drinking Riesling.
Oh, it's so funny. But
just so to tell you guys one time in the future about the wine tasting I went with my husband, and yeah.
Oh well, we'll have to talk about that for sure. I think we should have a red wine tasting.
No, I don't. Well, yes.
I think Rick should pay for it.
Rick.
You funny.
And my glass of red wine is really, really large.
As long as you guys don't mind tasting, wine that comes in a box, I'm down for paying for it.
Oh, we might as well just give me a straw then. Who needs a glass?
Anyhow, we are at the end of our time, so we will see you after Christmas. So Merry Christmas. We're going to start every week starting after January 1st. So Merry Christmas to everyone, and we hope have a wonderful time.
Mega MAGA Commander X on soon, and he's a very secret person, but I just want to give that a little bit of a teaser that we have a very super special MAGA guest that will be coming on sometime in January, February.
Yes, we do. Stay tuned. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.